sector currently, that is the medics pay row, even as counties are digging in. It has been highlighted in the Daily Nation right there at the back page, where governors are actually sticking to their guns, insisting that they won't pay as nurses strike enters day 38. Now, it's just not a case of can't pay, but it's also a case of won't pay. Now, it's interesting looking at this escalation of a bruising battle over pay. And I'd like to begin right there. Gloria Roba, your take on this. I mean, we have the governors speaking in one voice of sorts. The Council of Governors has been quite vocal about this. The counties are in no position since it's not included in the budget. We also have other governors saying, do not include, do not ask for money. What do you make of all this?
I was actually very saddened by the comments of particularly Governor Ongwaya from Kisii County. He was very adamant about the idea that actually these professional health workers are coming out with their plight and asking for fair pay, and actually just saying that, you know, it's time that we have a conversation with our county government and also with the national government. And he actually particularly said that they're not going to, you know, this is not the time to ask for money. If anything, we should not be having any kind of negotiations with money. But for me, I would like to say this. Governor Ongwaya actually used to, he had the public service reforms. He is actually a veteran, he's been in civil service for like 40-something years. When they were pushing for the public service reforms, two of the things that they were actually touching on, the principles, the key principles of the public service reforms were pragmatic and result-oriented framework, as well as effective public financial management. Now, when I look at how the Council of Governors, and, you know, with the brains of Ongwaya in there, actually trying to say, this is the way that we should end this standoff. You know, it's been 38 days of the health workers being on strike. This is 38 days of our hospitals actually being shut down. So at the end of the day, I ask myself, if we can have leaders who understand what it means to have an effective and result-oriented framework, then and they're coming out telling the health workers that it's not time to have a conversation on this, then I think it's very, very sad, because that shows you that there's nobody in these leadership positions who's actually listening to the health workers. And for me, I don't think it's actually coming from an honest place. Kisii County is one of the counties that the county government and its public finance has actually done close to nothing in terms of using the budget to push for the healthcare services and affordable. In fact, the level 6 hospital that was recently upgraded in Kisii County, that was funded by the national government. When you look at the big projects that have been done in Kisii County, most of them, Governor Ongwaya has actually received that money from national government. Right. So at the end of the day, when I hear a person like my governor in Kisii County, Ongwaya, telling health workers it is not the time for you to come and ask for money, I understand that he's not pushing the agenda of the health worker. I understand that he's not pushing the agenda of the common wananchi, but because he has received a lot of projects from national government, I understand that he's pushing the agenda of the national government, which at this moment is actually not to speak to the healthcare workers and address their issues.
Okay. Now, this is something that's interesting. Even as it all plays out, Mwakesi, it appears the national and the county governments are reading from different scripts. And we had C.S. Kagwe categorically say that he cannot interfere with negotiations between the Health Workers Union and the counties, mentioning that what was signed was just affecting the national government workers. Now, for patients who are waiting for any type of resolution, would they take this statement in bad taste?
Well, you know, when we look at this particular issue, I wouldn't be surprised that the cabinet secretary would go for that kind of thinking, as opposed to what the governors are looking at it. As I said earlier, the responsibility of what happens within counties lies squarely on the governors themselves. And so it would be very important that the governors really take charge of these particular negotiations and really sit down and negotiate with the county health workers on what would be the best return to work formula, and in terms of especially their pay. I've seen that they've really taken their time to really argue that the healthcare workers are paid way more than the other professionals within the counties. This is an argument, yes, which can be put forward. However, there is a clear reason why the health takes a priority as compared to other sectors of that particular economy, because, again, the people who suffer, as you rightly put it, are the patients. So it's important that we do everything possible to ensure that the health workers are protected, they're given as much resources as possible, and that they're given the kind of work environment that enables them to really carry out the duties as is required. However, the question of disbursements is a very important one. When they say they can't pay, it's true. Governors can't pay. So it's CS Kagwe needs to really speak with his Treasury counterpart on the issue of disbursements of these monies to counties. Counties will be able to really do and make very clear projections of what kind of pay that is available to healthcare workers when it is clear that money will be available on time and when it is required. But in this current situation, it's impossible for even I, if I was seated as a governor, to sit down and make planning and see that I can be able to enter a deal with my healthcare workers if I have not been able to know whether I'll get this money consistently and at the right time and be able to keep to the agreements that have been set. So there is no way that CS Kagwe can really escape from this particular scenario. It's important that both national and county governments directly engage these healthcare workers and find a lasting solution to this particular problem, because Kenyans are waiting for services. There is no way that we can be able to allow for 38 days of a strike and going on almost the second month without healthcare workers being present at the sites to be able to help our people get the help that they need. So it's imperative to be able to do this. The president needs also to step in onto this particular matter. We shouldn't be talking of anything else except making sure that when we can do everything possible to get these healthcare workers back into their stations and working to serve the people.
Well, we surely hope progress is made in terms of that standoff in the health sector. As we conclude, just your final comments, lady and gentlemen. Even as you give it, I'd like you to touch on the issue facing the judiciary right now. Not really an issue, but in terms of finding the new Chief Justice, the Judicial Service Commission is definitely in the forefront in terms of ensuring this process is a success. I'd like to begin with you, Gloria Oroba, briefly.
I think CJ Maraga has actually left very, very big shoes to fill, and that is what you're seeing is happening. There is a question of integrity of that office. And CJ Maraga, regardless of what people want to say, whether he came out to complain about the Mercedes and whether he seemed to be a crybaby by trying to get the attention of the president, all those things that might be misconstrued as not being able to hold office, he was a man of integrity. And what you're actually seeing now, actually there's a funny picture on the Standard of all these different characters of people queuing to go for the interview for the and I think that is what the shoes are too big to fill, and that's the challenge that we're facing.
Well, it definitely be a challenge. Over to you, Mwakesi. What do you make of the next few months? Because it will take some time, up to 4 months, till we get a new Chief Justice.
Indeed, I think that's something that we need to really look at it critically, because the selection of the new CJ is something that is very important to the reality of this country, that an arm of government. One of the things that is very important for me as we go into this particular perspective is to look at the tribal metrics, because the president has made that it's a conversation in the country right now. This is something that will have to be looked into, the composition of the Supreme Court, and what it mean, which kind of person we have at the helm of this particular position. There is a political implication, because again, the choice of the next CJ will be very important for as we look into matters concerning the referendum. There will be a lot of court petitions, and there will be a lot of seeking of guidance from the Supreme Court on what to do with issues to do with that particular constitutional dispensation. And again, there's the question of the elections come 2022. So again, this selection is very imperative. We need to move fast with it. I know there's been a challenge on DCJ Mwilu, but let's also allow for the judiciary to function in the time being as we're looking at how can we be able to select the next CJ who can be able to take us through the next few months towards 2022.
All right, many thanks. Stephen Mwakesi right there, public policy.